Unit 1. Listening. Page 11.
Sally, I'm not sure many people are clear about what the job of PA really is. So, what exactly do you do?
Well, normally I arrive at the office at about 9:30. My first job is to check my email. Every day there are lots of requests for meetings with Richard from producers, directors, lots of people. I prioritise these and I fit them into Richard's diary around his other appointments. Before any meeting, Richard needs background information, so I often do research or look up information. During meetings, I take notes, and then afterwards I type the minutes and file them. And I deal with correspondence, take phone calls, and welcome visitors to the office.
What kind of atmosphere do you work in?
Oh, it's very busy. There are all kinds of people, producers, directors, actors, coming and going all the time. And sometimes it seems like the phone never stops ringing.
What do you like best about your job?
The people I work with, they're very positive and helpful.
And what do you like least?
Well, you can be under a lot of pressure to meet deadlines. There are always so many things happening. It can be quite manic sometimes.
Do you have a good working relationship with your boss?
Oh, yes, we get on very well. He has a hectic schedule and he's out of the office a lot of the time, so trust is very important. He relies on me to work efficiently if he's not there.
What kind of qualities do you think a PA needs?
Organisation is the most important thing, definitely. You need to be quite meticulous when you're planning your employer's appointments.
Anything else?
Yes, you need to stay calm, even in a difficult situation. And you need a good telephone manner and good communication skills.
Do you have any words of encouragement for anyone who is thinking of becoming a PA?
Being a PA is a valuable career. It gives you a really good idea of how an organisation works and how people make decisions. And it can be an ideal springboard for a career in many other business areas, from marketing to finance.
Unit 2. Listening. Page 16.
Did you understand that memo about changes in the pension scheme?
No. Andrew just has to call a meeting about this. He can't just send a document round. We need to know exactly what's happening and why.
He just won't deal with people face to face, that's the problem. I mean, the idea that we have regular communication meetings is a joke. When did we have the last one? All he does is shut himself in his office and send emails.
I know. So much for open-door management. I think we should talk to other Olympus offices to see what they've heard about this.
Could you do that? And for now, I'll send yet another email to Andrew and try to get him to set up a meeting about this. We could all be affected if they've changed where they've invested the fund. I don't believe for a moment that they're doing it for our benefit. This must be a way of trying to save money.
That's the thing, isn't it? OK, I'll find out what other offices are doing about this and get back to you. And good luck with our dear director. I hope he doesn't agree and then call off the meeting at the last minute like last time.
Unit 3. Listening. Page 21.
Good morning, and welcome to our lecture about famous 19th century company owners who were both successful businessmen and who were also deeply concerned with the welfare of their employees. The first example of a company owner who did a lot to help the poor was Joseph Rowntree. You might know the name, as many of Rowntree's chocolate products, like the Kit Kat bar, are still around today. But you may not know that the original Rowntree family were very involved with social work. Joseph Rowntree was born in York in 1834. First of all, he worked with his father, but in 1869 he went to join his brother Henry, who owned a cocoa and chocolate factory in York. At that time, they had only 30 workers, but under Joseph's management, the company grew very quickly. By the end of the century, it was a huge international business with over 4,000 employees. But Joseph was not just a director of a very successful company. He was also concerned with finding ways to reduce poverty, and he introduced a great many changes for the workers in the Rowntree factory. He provided free education for workers under 17, a doctor on site, and he shortened the working day to 8 hours. Most importantly, in 1906 he used £10,000 of the company's profits to set up a pension fund for his workers. His son, Seabohm Rowntree, was also famous for social work, and in 1901 he published a study on the life of the poor in York called Poverty, a Study of Town Life. The culture of the company changed somewhat in 1969 when Rowntree's merged with Mackintosh, another Yorkshire confectionery company, and again in 1988 when the company was taken over by Nestlé. But Joseph is still remembered as a great philanthropist, and there are 3 charitable trusts that he set up in 1904 which are still working, and are still known as the Joseph Rowntree Foundation. Now, the next example of a kind factory owner, strangely enough, was also a confectionery giant, and that was Thomas Cadbury.
Unit 4. Listening. Page 24. 1.
G. Brent. That's GBRENT .39 at Canada. That's ATTCANADA.net.
2.
Sales at Taylor Mills, that's TAYLORMILLS.co.uk.
3.
Ben D. Murphy, that's BEND_MURPHY at hotmail.com.
4.
NATALIE.OMAR@planet.nl.
5.
www.glf.com/products.
6.
Mary-Ann Perkins, that's Mary-Ann.Perkins, spelt PERKINS, at Copeland, that's COPLAND.org.uk.
7.
A. Sanchez. You spell that ASANCHEZ. No dots. Then at central.unav. That's UNAV.ES.
8.
www.morlandhotel, all one word, /reservations.
Unit 5. Listening. Page 27. Speaker 1.
This is a tool which is used to make the holes in belts and leather goods. You put the belt between the 2 parts and then press the handles together. The circular piece of metal cuts a small hole in the leather. Nowadays, of course, most belts are made by machine, but some craftsmen still use hand cutters like these.
Speaker 2.
This is actually a tool used by engineers who build aeroplanes. When you're assembling an aeroplane wing, you need something to hold the pieces of metal in place while you fasten them with rivets. This tool puts temporary rivets in the metal sheets to hold them still before the permanent rivets are put in.
Speaker 3.
No, this is really a tool for making small cuts in wood. It's especially used by musical instrument makers, violin makers actually. The half ring is used to make cuts in the top of the violin. These cuts are then filled with paint or other pieces of wood for decoration. The solid circle of metal on the other side is just to add weight, so the cuts can be deeper.
Unit 6. Listening. Page 32.
Welcome to the programme today, and I am delighted to have here in the studio Director of Operations for the world-famous Chanel perfumes. Hello there.
Hello. It's nice to be here.
Can you tell us a bit about how you actually make Chanel perfumes? Your most famous Chanel No. 5 perfume?
Yes, of course. Well, the roses on our farm are in season from April to June, and the jasmine from August to September. Firstly, the flowers are picked on the farm, and the petals are put into sacks. Then they are transported to the production plant to be weighed. At some farms, the petals may wait a day before they are treated, but at Chanel, freshness is considered very important, and the petals reach the plant within half an hour. The next stage is to extract the natural oils and resins. In the past, this was done with cold fat, which was spread on the petals, but nowadays we use extraction solvents like ethanol. The petals are washed 3 times in over 2,000 litres of this solvent, and the perfumed oils dissolve into it. In the next stage, the flowers are removed from the vats, and the solvent is eliminated by a process of evaporation. This leaves a solid, which is known in the trade as the concrete. This can be stored for several years. When the perfume is required, it is extracted from the concrete with alcohol. If we then evaporate this alcohol, we are left with a very pure form of flower perfume, which we call the absolute. Different absolutes are then blended to create different perfumes.
Oh, great! Well, thank you. That really does give us great insight.
Unit 6. Listening. Page 33.
So, what do I need to do if I want to order some office equipment?
Well, the order book is always kept here in the filing cabinet. If you need to order something like stationery, then you fill in this top form. It's carbonated, so it makes 4 copies underneath. Then the order needs to be authorised by the budget holder. For stationery, that will be Rosemary.
So Rosemary has to sign it?
That's right. Then you keep the pink copy for reference, and all the other copies are sent to the accounts department. When they process the order, they'll send the blue copy back to you, just to confirm that they've processed it. The top copy, the white one, gets sent to the supplier.
And that's it?
Yeah. When the order comes, you check it against the invoice and your pink copy. If it's okay, you write goods received on the invoice and send it to the accounts department so they can pay it.
Unit 7. Listening. Page 36.
Good afternoon, Celia Jewellery.
Hello. Could I speak to Mr. Lawson, please?
I'm afraid he's not here at the moment. Can I take a message?
Well, yes. This is Hilda Ringo from Hogerson in Oslo. There's a problem with an order. Could you ask him to ring me back as soon as possible?
Of course. Could I have your name again, please?
Yes, it's Hilda Ringo. That's Hilde, then Ringo. And the company is Holgersen. You spell that SSON.
What is the problem exactly?
Well, we placed an order 3 weeks ago for 100 watches in the new Starburst design. I've just received a phone call to say that they're stuck in customs. Apparently, the packing list isn't correct and they can't let them through.
That's strange. We don't usually have customs problems. We'll have to phone our freight forwarding agent about this because they're the ones looking after that side of things. I'll ask Mr. Lawson to phone them as soon as he gets in and then he'll get back to you.
Thank you. Could he call me back before 4 o'clock today, please?
OK, yes. I'm sure he'll want to sort this problem out straight away.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Unit 7. Listening. Page 37.
Sales department.
Good morning. My name's Selina, and I'm phoning from Khalil. We placed an order over 3 weeks ago for some industrial paint, but we've not heard anything since. I'm just phoning to check you received the order.
Right. What was your company's name again?
Khalil. That's Khalil.
Do you know your account reference number?
Well, the one I've got here on a previous invoice is ZS341.
What exactly did you order?
It was the new heavy-duty car paint that's advertised in your catalogue. Colour number A585.
And when did you place the order?
Well, we phoned on the 18th of April, and the order form is dated the 19th. As far as I know, it was sent to you that same day.
OK. Hold the line, please, and I'll see if I can trace the order. One moment. Hello?
Yes?
We did receive the order. Apparently there have been a few problems with the supply of that colour, so we've had a backlog of orders. However, that has all been resolved now, and the paint should arrive next week.
So we should get it on Monday the 18th?
Well, more like midweek. It should certainly be with you by Wednesday the 20th of May. Could I have your extension number, please, just in case there are any more problems?
It's 375. And if I'm not here, you can call John Campbell on 398.
And, sorry, I don't know your surname.
Oh, it's Selina McPherson. That's MacPherson. Thanks for sorting this out.
You're welcome.
Unit 8. Listening. Page 39.
So what changes do you think we'll see in advertising in the future?
Well, one thing I think is that TV advertising will become less important. In fact, that's already happening.
Why is that?
All over the world, TV audiences are starting to decline, get less in number. I suppose that's because of other forms of entertainment coming on the scene, like computer games. But another thing that has affected TV commercials is the video recorder. Because, of course, when people watch a video program, they usually fast-forward past all the commercials.
So what will replace TV?
Well, one growth area is online advertising. Things like banners that run across web pages and pop-ups, pop-up ads. If we look at how much is spent on internet advertising, the figure is rising by about 10 or 15% a year.
But are online ads effective when you compare them with TV commercials? I mean, they don't use moving images or sound usually. They don't entertain people in the same way.
Difficult to say. There isn't much research comparing the two. But I fear the days of the great TV commercial are over. That was back in the 70s and 80s. When you got surveys saying that quite a big percentage of people found them more entertaining than the programs. That doesn't happen now. There's more choice of channels, and I think people just switch over when the commercials come on. Or they just don't take as much notice of them now.
Are there any other media which are becoming more important?
DVDs. They're a growth medium, and they're being used more and more as advertising space. And something else which we'll probably see more of is commercial advertising.
What's that?
It's a technique that's already being used in the USA. You hire, at least your agency hires, thousands of people to talk about your product to friends and colleagues. For example, in one campaign for a burger company, people had to take the burgers along if friends invited them to a barbecue. Or they had to take the burgers along to the butcher's or the local supermarket and say, "Why don't you stock these?" You introduce the product to your local community.
I'm not sure that's always a good way to win friends. So it's like a kind of controlled word of mouth.
Yes, it is really.
Unit 9. Listening. Page 42.
Hi, Jeanette. It's Paul. Sorry about the late call. I've just received a fax from Mr. Gavino. Apparently, there have been delays to his journey, and he's missed his connecting flight from Singapore. So he's not arriving tomorrow after all. He's arriving on the 14th at 6:20 a.m. He's given me the flight number. It's SQ341. Could you please let the hotel know? And could you also book a taxi for him for the 14th? We're going to have to change the program a bit now. I've already left a message for Jason, so are you still meeting him tomorrow morning? Maybe you could use some of that time to revise the program. Oh, and could you please ring the restaurant as well? Cancel the booking for tomorrow and rebook for the day after? Same time, 7:30, okay? Nothing goes smoothly, does it? Okay, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Call me at home if there are any problems. Bye.
Unit 9. Listening. Page 43.
Hello, this is Carmen Banegas from Medica. I was wondering if we could fix a time to meet next week.
Yes, of course. What time would suit you?
Well, I was wondering if you could manage Tuesday afternoon.
Sorry, I'm not available at any time on Tuesday, as I've arranged to be at our other branch all day.
How about Wednesday afternoon?
I'm booked up Wednesday afternoon as well, but I could do Wednesday morning, or I'm free all day on Thursday.
Could you make Thursday at 2 o'clock?
That would be fine, yes.
Okay. So let's confirm that then. Thursday at 2 o'clock.
Unit 9. Listening. Page 44. 1.
Peter, could you see if you could change my flight on Thursday? I've got an appointment at 11:30, so I really won't be able to leave until mid-afternoon.
What time do you have to get there?
Well, I'd like to be there by 6:30 if I could.
Shall I see if I can get you onto the 4:20 flight?
That would be great, thank you.
2.
Miss Casale's train gets in at 2:10, so could you drive down to the station after lunch and pick her up, please?
The problem is I'm seeing Simone at 2 o'clock to discuss the programme. She could get a taxi, couldn't she? Or she could even walk if you gave her directions.
What? Carrying a heavy bag? No. Anyway, Simone isn't here today.
Isn't he?
No. He phoned in sick earlier on.
Oh, OK. I'll pick her up then.
3.
We have a visitor arriving on the 26th, so could you please arrange a meet and greet at the airport? It's KLM flight number 459.
What name is it?
Well, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it, but it's spelt Bulkiewiczz.
Oh, one moment, that's Bulkiewiczz.
No, K-I-E, not E-I.
Okay.
4.
Per Jonsson, the chief executive of Missen Credit, the merchant bank, has announced his retirement. His place will be taken up by Yolanda Haseman, currently Chief Financial Officer.
Unit 9. Listening. Page 44. 1.
I need to get to the airport by 6:30.
Shall I book you a taxi?
2.
What are you doing with those files, Roger?
I'm going to type the sales figures for Mr. Durand.
3.
The Bank of Canada have announced that economic growth will be relatively slow this year. This is because of weak demand from Japan and parts of Europe.
4.
I've tried to set up the room for the presentation, but the microphone isn't working.
I'll call the technician. I've got the number somewhere here.
Unit 9. Listening. Page 45. 1.
I need to get to the airport by 6:30.
Shall I book you a taxi?
Yes, please. For about 5:45, I think.
Shall I make it 5:30? I think there might be a lot of traffic around at that time.
Yes, good idea.
2.
What are you doing with those files, Roger?
I'm going to type the sales figures for Mr. Durand.
Can I ask you to send these faxes for me as well? They are quite urgent.
Could I do the typing first? Mr. Durand wants them by 3 at the latest. Otherwise he can't finish his report.
Yes, as long as you send them off by the end of the day.
Yes, I will.
3.
The Bank of Canada have announced that economic growth will be relatively slow this year. This is because of weak demand from Japan and parts of Europe. Their forecast for Canadian growth is now 2.4%, compared with the 2.8% they predicted just 3 months ago. They have, however, rejected the suggestion that growth could drop below 2%.
4.
I've tried to set up the room for the presentation, but the microphone isn't working.
I'll call the technician. I've got the number somewhere here.
I've already called him. I left a message, but I don't know if he'll get it in time. I was wondering if you could come and have a look at it. You're better at these things than I am.
I don't know about that. What about the handheld mic? Couldn't he use that?
I'm not sure where it is. Could you see if you could fix the one that's there, and I'll see if I can find the handheld one.
OK.
Unit 10. Listening. Page 46.
The last time I came to this airport, I lost my passport. I was nice and early, so there were no queues at the check-in desk. I checked in my hand luggage, got my boarding card, and went through passport control all very quickly. Then, because I had so much time, instead of just sitting in the departure lounge, I decided to do some shopping. I wanted to get a present, so I was trying all the different perfumes in the duty-free shop. I don't know how it happened, but I must have dropped my passport there. I went to the gate to board the plane, and then I realized that I couldn't find my passport. At that moment, they called me over the loudspeaker. "Will passenger Martinez traveling to Madrid please contact the information desk?" I felt so embarrassed.
Unit 10. Listening. Page 49.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's programme, which takes a look at transport issues. With us in the studio is Rebecca Dixon, who is the Managing Director of Cruiseway, a commercial car club. Rebecca, welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
First of all, could you tell us a bit about what Cruiseway is and how it works?
Well, basically, it's a system that allows you to hire a car whenever you want. It's for people who don't use a car every day, like, for example, business people who go to work by public transport but then might need a car on Sundays to meet clients or at weekends.
Right. Is this a new idea?
No. Car clubs have been very successful in other countries like America and some parts of Europe. In Germany, there are around 40,000 car club users, and in Switzerland it's around 58,000. And you can find other car clubs in Britain as well, but they are mostly quite small. The total membership in Britain is about 15,000. Of those 15,000, around 8,500 belong to Cruiseway.
So, I want to become a member of your car club. What do I do?
Well, you pay a signing-up fee of £30 and then you are a member. After that, you can book the car whenever you want it, either online or by phone. The basic rate is £6 an hour. Between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m, it's just £3. Petrol is included in the price, and of course you don't pay any of the additional costs like road tax or insurance.
And how much notice do I have to give? I mean, I might suddenly need a car urgently.
No problem. It can be just a few minutes' notice and we'll have it there for you.
Sounds good. Is there a limit for how long I can have the car?
No, as long as you can pay. You specify when you book how long you want it for, but if you need to extend that, then you can contact us with the onboard computer and ask for another hour or whatever. The shortest time you can book for is 30 minutes.
Unit 10. Listening. Page 49.
When you've finished with your car, you just leave the keys in the car and we'll come and pick it up again.
Isn't that a security risk?
No, not at all. Each Cruiseway member is issued with a swipe card and a PIN number. The swipe card lets you into the car, and then the PIN number allows you to open the glove compartment at the front of the car where the keys are kept. There's no way you can get into the car and drive off without those.
So do you think car clubs are something we're going to see more of in the future? I'm sure green organisations must welcome you as a way of getting some of these private cars off the road and reducing pollution.
Yes, certainly. Car clubs can really reduce the amount of traffic on the roads. And there's evidence to show that car clubs increase public transport use. Because, of course, in addition to their car usage, members make greater use of buses and trains.
Are car clubs the best answer, though? I mean, if you want to save money or be more green, why not just get together with your neighbours or work colleagues and share a car between you?
Well, people can do that as well, of course, but there can be so many practical problems. I actually did it for a year, so I know. For a start, do you actually live or work near enough to that other person to make it possible? I remember when I did it, the biggest problem was that when I got to my neighbour's house in the morning, he was never ready. Or when it was his turn to pick me up, he was always a little bit late and I'd be sitting there thinking, now, is he actually going to come? It caused so many arguments we just gave up after a year.
So all the more reason for finding another solution. Rebecca, thank you for talking to us.
Unit 12. Listening. Page 54.
I've just received these hotel details from Ventura Promotions. What do you think?
Well, the most convenient place seems to be Il Castel, only 13 kilometres from the airport.
But look how small the conference room is. It only holds 40 people, and they only have 3 seminar rooms.
Oh, yes, that's no good then.
I think the best is this one, the Sunset.
Oh, let me have another look. Well, it certainly has a larger conference room than Il Castel. It doesn't need to be as big as that, though.
But it says that this is their largest conference room. They probably have smaller rooms as well.
OK, 6 seminar rooms. That's OK. The only thing is, the Sunset is the furthest out. It's 40 kilometres from the airport.
I don't think that's too bad.
Why don't you like this one, La Guardia?
I do, it's just the price. Their facilities look great from the photos, but it's definitely the most expensive. It's way over our budget. I'm sure Jake will want somewhere cheaper than that.
Do you have the price details?
Here.
Oh, I see what you mean. Well, maybe we could negotiate some cheaper rates.
It's inland as well, though. I think a beach hotel would be more pleasant.
Oh, well, I'll remember to take my swimming costume.
I'll propose this one to Jake, I think, and see what he says. If he agrees, I'll get back to Ventura and say we'd like the sunset.
Unit 12. Listening. Page 56.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to this, Utilitas' third annual conference. Promoting a product or service these days has become more challenging and exciting than ever, with the arrival of so many new methods of advertising. So we have decided to share our experience and take new media as the topic of our conference this year. First of all, there are one or two changes to the programme that I'd like to draw your attention to. Unfortunately, Mr. John Pineda can't be with us today, so instead of his session on measuring TV audiences, Ms. Stefania Volksman will be giving a talk on internet advertising. The other main change is that Mr. Tim Shee's talk on the consumer as boss has been moved from the green room downstairs and will now take place in the West Room. Our final session tomorrow afternoon will be a discussion panel with our key speakers. That will be here in the main theatre at 2 o'clock. We are expecting a large audience, so I advise you to make your way from the main hall as soon as lunch is finished. Inside your welcome pack, you'll find a short feedback questionnaire. I'd be grateful if you could fill it in at the end of the conference and drop it into the box by the coffee shop. If you need a new feedback form, then you can get one from the stand next to reception. That's where you can also get your free souvenir, which this year is a DVD. We've upgraded from the videos we had last year. Last but not least, we intend to make a contribution to the literature available on new marketing media by publishing this year's conference proceedings in a book. This should be available in June and will be called Sales Talk. We also intend to publish shortened versions of some of the presentations before that on our website under the title Conference Papers. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd now like to hand you over to our first speaker, Dieter Peach. And once again, thank you all for coming here today.
Unit 13. Grammar Workshop 1. Page 58.
So how long have you been with Mark Development?
For about 2 years. I started with them in the autumn of 2004.
And have you been to Milan before?
No, I haven't. I've been to Venice before, though.
Ah, when was that?
About 3 years ago. It was just for a holiday. We had 3 days in Venice, and then we went down to Tuscany.
Lovely. So have you seen much of the city yet?
Not yet. I walked a bit around the centre last night.
Did you see the shopping gallery?
Oh, yes. It's wonderful.
Unit 14. Listening. Page 62. I have with me Philip Baker from Calder, a consultancy which advises business executives on cultural issues. Philip, tell us a bit about what you deal with on your courses.
Well, cultural issues are a very big subject. I can really only give you a general idea. OK, one thing is body language, which varies a lot from culture to culture. One difference here is how close people stand when they talk to each other. In the UK and Northern Europe, the distance is about 50 to 70 centimetres. But in Southern Europe, Latin America and the Middle East, people tend to stand quite a bit closer, between 20 and 50 centimetres. Eye contact is different. The cultures which stand closer also tend to make more direct eye contact. On the other hand, many people in Asia prefer minimal eye contact, less than the Northern Europeans. How much you can touch the person you are talking to is another difference, or where you can touch them. For example, in Thailand, you do not touch people on the head, as that is considered the highest part of the body, spiritually.
But business people travel so much these days. Aren't we all becoming more used to each other? After all, if I'm doing business in another country, people know I'm a foreigner. They don't expect me to behave just like them.
They don't expect you to copy them, but you still need to be aware of what might give offence. Besides, every country has its own business culture, which is a part of the overall culture, and that will affect the way business is carried out.
Can you give us some examples?
Again, a huge subject. But one very important difference is the task versus relationship question. Some cultures are more task-oriented, so the focus is on getting the job done, and not so much on building up a personal and professional relationship with your colleague. That would be the Anglo-Saxon cultures like the UK and Germany, and the Scandinavians.
And what would be the opposite?
At the other end of the spectrum, you get cultures which are much more concerned with creating and keeping up business relationships. There will be more time spent on entertaining, more gift-giving, and business practices like references are likely to be done in a more personal way, rather than, say, just by matching people's performance to a job description. The Middle East is an example of that kind of culture, and so is China.
Interesting.
Attitudes to time is another big area of difference. In Europe and the USA, we tend to have the attitude that time is money. In general, in the more relationship-oriented cultures, time schedules are more flexible. Delays are more common, and there is more time spent on building up relationships and small talk.
Philip, it's been fascinating talking to you. It's a shame we have to stop here. But if you are interested in attending one of Calder's training courses, you can contact them on Unit 14. Listening. Page 65.
The main times of the year when people give presents in Japan are in December, just before New Year, and for what is called Ochugen, normally in July. This was originally connected with the annual festival for commemorating the dead, so both of those can be expensive times of the year. But fortunately, Japanese companies often give a bonus, a bit like the Christmas bonus in the West. Gift-giving happens in companies as well, and companies might well give presents to good customers at either of these times. And of course, if you're doing business in Japan, then it's good to take a present for your hosts. Good ideas for presents might be good quality fruit, or something from a high-quality department store. Gifts in Japan are always wrapped. In Japan, many stores will wrap the goods for you if you say they are a present. If you are bringing the present from outside Japan, it's important to take care when wrapping it, and don't use white paper for this. Normally, gifts aren't opened immediately in front of the giver. If you do receive a present and your host insists on you opening it, then it's best to do this carefully and not just tear it open like we might do in Europe. And there are one or two other rules. Firstly, gifts should be given and taken with both hands. And the other one is, don't give 4 pieces of anything as a present. That's because the Japanese word for 4 sounds like the word for death.
Unit 15. Listening. Page 68.
So if we all agree that good teamwork is the key to success, we need to ask, what makes a good team? Because we all know, of course, that you can't be sure that people are going to work well together, however talented they might be as separate people. First of all, a team needs a good leader. The team leader needs to be someone who is committed to the team and its aims, someone who is calm in a crisis, and most of all, someone who trusts their team members and listens to them. Their leader doesn't have to be the most intelligent member of the team. In fact, it's often best if they're not. Very intelligent team leaders sometimes use arguments that other team members don't understand, and they can also dominate the situation. A team leader who is of average intelligence but has the right personality is better. Most teams need someone who can think of new ideas and new ways to solve problems. This is the creative, original thinker, a very important team member. But it's a mistake to think that teams with lots of people like this will do well. In fact, you'll probably get a lot of fights and arguments that way, because creative, imaginative people are not always good at understanding or working with other people's creative ideas. Ideally, you need just one person like this, and different types of people for the rest of the team. This brings me on to the most important principle about building a team. You need a balance of different personalities. Just think about when you're launching a new product. You need the creative thinker or designer who has first thought of the idea. You need the enthusiastic salesperson with great communication skills who can go out there and sell it. But you also need the careful, thoughtful person who pays attention to all the details, who makes sure all the checks and tests are done and the product really is ready for the market. It would be nice to think, wouldn't it, that if teams need all these different types of people, that everyone could be a good team member of some type. Unfortunately, studies suggest that this isn't true. There are some people who just don't work well in any team. Something in their personality is against it, is against team spirit. What is more, people who can't fit into any team sometimes reach quite high positions in business. So how can we use this knowledge we have about teamwork? Firstly, when choosing someone to join a management team, we need to think about the balance or mix of the team as a whole. It's a mistake just to choose someone similar to the people you already have, because that probably won't make the most effective team. Secondly, people often get jobs because of their previous experience. They're given a job just because they've done something like it before, even if they weren't very good at it. I would argue in favour of using a personality test and choosing the right person from the results of this, rather than just looking at previous experience. If you look at your handouts, you'll see an example of the kind of test that I mean.
Unit 16. Listening. Page 70. 1.
It's a type of cream cheese. It's quite bland.
2.
It's a type of green salad. It tastes slightly bitter.
3.
They are a type of mushroom. They're usually fried in oil.
4.
They're a type of shellfish. They taste a bit like prawns.
5.
It's a kind of root vegetable. It's usually cooked in butter.
6.
It's a kind of white fish. It's delicious, but you have to be careful of the bones.
Unit 17. Listening. Page 76. 1.
Anyway, here are the figures for this month. Sales of ladies' handbags are down on last month, but executive products like briefcases are still doing very well. I have to say I'm very disappointed with our new range of leather jackets. We don't seem to have been able to reach the right market there.
2.
Our sales showed a strong performance in the last quarter. They dropped slightly in January after the Christmas rush, but recovered in February. And as we can see, that upward trend continued until the end of March.
3.
So, turning now to our markets, we can see that there has been a sharp increase in our sales in Asia over the past 5 years. It now makes up about 35% of the total, so it has not quite overtaken Europe, which is still the best performing region, but we have definitely made big inroads. However, sales in America remain well below the other two regions.
4.
This isn't really what I expected. I thought the peak would be around mid-morning on Saturdays.
But actually it's later, around 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Yes, late afternoon is a slow period. But then things seem to pick up again at around 7 o'clock.
5.
So, what were the sales figures like for October?
Still not very good, I'm afraid. It's worrying. We usually see a big increase after August.
Isn't there any improvement at all?
Yes, they are slightly higher than September, but it really isn't good enough.
Unit 18. Listening. Page 81.
So, turning now to our financial performance for this year, 2006, I am pleased to report very impressive results. Great, actually, despite the problems in the world economy. I think we can confidently say we are going into next year in a very strong position. The turnover for the whole year was £32.4 million, and we've continued to enjoy a high rate of profitability. If you look at the bar chart on the screen, you can see that in 2005, the return on sales was 17%, and that figure has remained exactly the same this year. I actually think that is a very good result, because about a quarter of turnover is in US dollars. 2006, as you know, saw a very weak dollar, and so changing the dollars into euros affected the figures quite a bit. Turning now to cash flow, our performance this year was very good. Free cash flow reached 31 million euros, which even beats our previous record of 29 million euros. The company carries out a valuation of the group pension scheme every 3 years, so it was due in 2006. If you look at the next chart, you'll see that scheme is 72% funded, compared with 95% at the time of the previous valuation 3 years ago. This is because we've been getting lower returns on some of our investments. We have therefore increased the financial contribution to the scheme, and under our current plans, the deficit will be eliminated over a 12-year period. Finally, our new subsidiary, which I know Carlos will want to say more about. We had a few problems leading up to the acquisition, and a bit of a crisis in July, but in the end, it all went through in September as planned. In the 6 months we have owned it, it delivered 1.8 million euros to group profits, a very strong acquisition, which I'm sure is going to...
Unit 19. Listening. Page 85.
I'm talking to Rita White from Llandudno in Wales. Rita runs a hotel for the tourists here and also helps her husband run a garage. But she has another source of income as well, because in 1999 she set up a women's investment club. Rita, how did you become interested in investments?
It was back in the 1990s. I had an account with a building society that became a public company and was floated on the stock exchange. That made some good profits for the shareholders, and I think my interest in investments started from there.
So you don't have anyone in your family who's a broker?
No, nothing like that.
And how did you start the investment club?
Well, it started with just me and 5 or 6 friends. 3 of us had some experience of owning shares, 1 other person through a building society like me. We got some advice from ProShare. That's an organisation who give investment education and promote investors' clubs like ours, and then we set up.
And why did you decide to make it women only?
Well, we didn't, at least not at first. Most of us asked our husbands or partners to join us, but none of them wanted to. They just had no belief in it. So at that point we thought, fine, we'll make it a ladies' club.
How much did you invest to start with?
£150 each. That was the initial investment, and all members contribute £25 a month.
And how do you decide which stocks to invest in?
Well, we do our research and we decide. We hold monthly meetings at one of our houses and we agree together what we should buy or sell, usually over lunch.
How successful has it been?
We're going through a bit of a low period at the moment, but that's the state of the market. Some of our investments have been very successful, over 10% returns on some of them.
And what do you think of this research which shows that women make better investors than men?
Well, I think no comment on that one.
And this research also shows that women tend to prefer more local companies to invest in. Is that true of your portfolio?
Quite a bit of it, yes. We have several local investments. It makes good sense, doesn't it? Because you're likely to have a lot more background knowledge about the company and how it actually works on a day-to-day basis. One of our most successful investments, for example, was in the local health club. Now, some of our men were a bit scornful about that. I think they thought it was a boring investment. We had the last laugh, though, when it was sold and we made a profit.
Unit 20. Listening. Page 86.
I have with me Tara Ganesh, the Marketing Director of Entrepreneur, who are a business support service. Tara, hello.
Hello.
Perhaps you could begin by just explaining briefly what Entrepreneur does.
Well, we are a service which offers advice and support for people who run their own business, especially people who are just starting up. We have a lawyer who can give legal advice and a marketing advisor who they can consult. And, quite importantly actually, we offer financial advice about all areas of business.
OK, so I've got this new idea for a product that I think is going to make my fortune. How do I raise the capital to get started? What are my options?
Even today, I think the most common way to set up a new business is with your own money. People use their savings, and if they don't have enough, they borrow from family and friends.
And that's still the best way, is it?
In many ways, because it's so simple. But if family or friends are involved, you need to be very clear about what will happen if things go wrong and how you'll pay the money back. Even if it's someone close to you, you should still draw up a written contract.
Yes, I can imagine there have been a lot of broken friendships over this sort of thing. But what if I can't provide the money myself? What's the best option? A bank loan?
For the small business, yes, it's probably the best choice. But your bank manager will need to see a detailed business plan. And if you're not experienced in writing business plans, you'll need to get some professional help, like we provide at Entrepreneur.
What kind of things are the bank looking for?
In the business? Well, realistic targets, steady growth, not necessarily dramatic at first, and a strong cash flow. Essentially, what the bank are interested in is whether you'll be able to pay off the debts. And for that reason, your bank loan will have to be secured against an asset.
What kind of asset?
Well, it could be your house or some equipment you own for the business. You know, so that if your business doesn't pay back the loan, the bank can claim that asset instead.
What other sources of capital are there?
Well, there are companies who provide start-up capital in return for a stake in the business. These are so-called venture capital firms. But they get lots of applications for loans, so there is usually tough competition, and they'll want to see a very high growth rate on your plan, 20% at least. Or you might find a business angel to provide the money.
A what, sorry?
A business angel. It's just someone who will invest in a startup company in return for a share in it. Usually, it's someone who has already been successful with a company of their own.
And how do I go about finding a business angel?
It can be difficult. They don't usually advertise because they don't want to be flooded with applications. But there is now a network you can go through, the National Business Angels Network.
Tara Ganesh, thank you very much.
Unit 22. Listening. Page 97. 1.
I'm 62. I lost my job about 2 years ago, but I'm a surveyor, and there don't seem to be many young people going into my field of work. There were lots of places going, and I managed to find a new job quite quickly.
2.
I accepted early retirement from my bank about 6 years ago. I've done some temporary work since then, but nothing for very long. I feel a bit frustrated and annoyed at not being able to use my skills, but I shouldn't complain really, I suppose. It would be much worse if I was short of money.
3.
I work as an executive PA at the moment, but I'd really like to move on. The trouble is, I'm 54, and I can't even get an interview. As soon as I put in my CV with my age on it, I just seem to get a straight no.
4.
Things haven't been very easy since I was made redundant. I found a job with another company in the end, but I'm not very keen on it. The new company will only give me a monthly contract. I won't reach retirement age for another 4 years, so I really need a more reliable source of income, something with more of a guarantee.
5.
I'm 58 and I'm the manager of an IT department. There's a lot of stereotypes about people in IT all being really young, but it's certainly not true in my department. I'm not in a minority at all. There are lots of us like me.
Unit 23. Listening. Page 101. So, Yvonne, what exactly is 360-degree feedback?
Well, it's a way of helping staff to develop. It means that you don't just receive comments and feedback from your manager. Instead, you get it from your managers, your colleagues, people who work under you, even customers and suppliers. Anyone, really, who comes into contact with you and has an opinion.
And who chooses these people who are going to give the feedback?
The employee's manager has to choose some. That's a rule. But I think it can be nice to make it a shared process and let the employee choose 1 or 2 colleagues or customers as well.
How is the feedback given? Do you actually meet all of these people and talk about your performance?
No, not necessarily. The feedback is on a form which lists the skills needed for your job. Appraisers give you a grade for each one. There's space for them to write their opinion as well, which is often more helpful than just giving a number. And the important thing is the employee gives himself or herself grades as well.
What, for the same skills?
That's right. You assess yourself using the same form. Then when the feedback comes in, you can see if there's a difference between how you see yourself and how others see you. That can be an eye-opener.
Yes, I must say it sounds quite frightening as well, though. Could the results of this feedback be related to the employee's pay? You know, if the feedback is good, they get a pay rise?
No, I'm not at all keen on that idea. I won't say it's never happened, but it isn't normal, and it isn't really what 360-degree is about. It's to help staff develop.
So what happens to the feedback then?
Well, one thing that makes it less frightening is that the appraisee owns the feedback. Other members of the organisation don't see it, and you don't even have to show it to your manager.
So what's the point of it then?
Well, the employee uses their feedback to write a development plan for training they would like to receive. The manager has to see this plan, so this gives the manager an idea about the feedback. But I think if employees really feel that the manager is concerned with staff development, they will usually share the feedback as well.
Is the feedback anonymous?
That depends on the person or the organisation. Some people prefer to give feedback anonymously, and it can make it easier for the employee to deal with any criticism. I do feel, though, that you get more benefit when people write their names on the feedback. In the right institution, people should be able to cope with this.
So, are you saying that there is such a thing as a wrong institution? Are there companies where you wouldn't recommend it?
Well, as I've said, I think it's a very powerful way of helping staff to develop. But yes, of course, it can be used as a weapon. So if you are working in an organisation where there's a lot of mistrust and bad feeling, then no, it isn't suitable. And you shouldn't use it at a time when there are big changes going on, like a merger or something. What you have to do is to work on the culture of your institution and try to create the sort of atmosphere where 360-degree feedback will be used to everyone's benefit.
I see.
And funnily enough, the process of preparing for 360 degree is often more beneficial than the feedback itself. I've seen many cases where the culture of an institution has really changed, not because of the feedback, but because of what was done in preparation for it. When it was time for the feedback, most of the important changes had already happened.
Interesting.